She was still smiling in her sleep. But not at me. I realized it when I found the cup. We each had our own. It never seemed important. But as it turned out, that was the whole point. Hers, white, delicate, almost translucent, with a small crack near the handle. Awkward, a bit crooked. She used to say, I got used to it. I chuckled at that. Funny. I got used to it too, to her. To everything. To the sound of her breathing at night. To the way she drank tea in the mornings, holding the cup in both hands. To the way she never finished it. And then, quietly, subtly, she started to change. First, the scent. A new shampoo. Strong, expensive, nothing like the one we used to buy together. Then the little things. Thin rings on her fingers that weren't there before. And a strange habit of wearing perfume to the grocery store. Not before a meeting, not before work. Just to the store. Who does that? I didn't want to think about it. Honestly. I tried to push the thoughts away. Sometimes I even looked through our old photos. The ones where she still looked at me like I was someone dear. Not like a roommate in the kitchen. That evening I came home early. Not on purpose, just tired. Everything at work was falling apart. I wanted to come home. I wanted warmth. Hope. Something familiar. She was washing her hands. Slowly, thoroughly. As if scrubbing off more than just skin. Soapy foam ran down her wrists. The water flowed silently as if it didn't want to interfere either. I noticed the cup in the sink. White. With a crack. But not hers, a different one. It was mine. Slightly charred on the rim, I burned it over a fire in the yard while making barbecue. She hated that one. Why was she drinking from mine? Suddenly, I realized her habits were slipping. Like the script was broken. The little things were switching places. Next to the sink, her phone. Left behind. Carelessly. Too carelessly. She never used to do that. The screen lit up, Katia, classes. I didn't read it. Didn't have time. Didn't need to. Because she wasn't looking at the screen like someone reading, but like someone remembering what was already there. I came closer. Quietly. Touched her shoulder. She flinched. Then smiled. Too quickly. Like an actress who forgot her line but remembered she was supposed to be happy at that moment. Why so quiet? I wanted to answer. I wanted to say I was tired. Not from work. From her. From this feeling of having a person next to me who was really just a ghost of what once was. But I didn't say anything. I walked to the cupboard in silence. Took out her old cup. That one, a white, with the crack. I looked at it, then at her. Standing by the window. Hands wet. Eyes lost in nothing. And I thought. I'm cracking too. Not loudly. Not all at once. Quietly. From the inside. I put the cup back. Gently, as if it were something fragile. Almost alive. And I noticed that the crack had grown. Almost to the bottom. Almost to the edge. She called it Katia. But the perfume she came back in wasn't remotely feminine. Katia. A name on the screen among other notifications. Ordinary. Convenient. Safe. Too convenient. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Classes, she said. Graphic design, I think, or something about visual thinking. I nodded. Supported her. Of course, grow. Develop. I wanted her to have something of her own. But over time, that own thing became a wall. In the second week, I noticed she laughed differently. Not louder. Not brighter. Just not with me. As if someone off-screen had pressed play on another person. And I was listening to someone else's recording. Last night she came back late. Her coat smelled like cold. Her cheeks like warmth. Her eyes sparkled like after wine. But there was no wine. I stood in the hallway holding her bag. She stepped toward me like everything was fine. Pressed her forehead to my chest. Said, "Sorry I'm late. We got to talking after class." I closed my eyes. Tried to believe it. But I inhaled and I knew. It wasn't her scent. And not the perfume from the bathroom shelf. It was something else. Sharp. Warm. Foreign. Like when you accidentally put on someone else's shirt and instantly feel it's not yours. I didn't pull away. But something tightened inside me. Not out of jealousy. Out of neglect. As if I didn't even deserve the effort to pretend. Later, when she fell asleep, curled up on the edge of the bed, I opened my laptop. Just to distract myself. Just to watch a movie. Just to look. WhatsApp was open. She rarely used it but never logged out. I clicked. Katia, classes. The last message wasn't from her. It was to her. Tomorrow again? You laughed so much today. I can't forget that look. No emojis. No signature. But there was tone. The kind you hear with your eyes. The kind that doesn't lie. There was no reply. Just read. And a period. But in the message history I saw she had reread it. Once. then twice, then again. I didn't even know WhatsApp showed that, but it did. She was sleeping peacefully, and I sat in the dark, like a guard at someone else's window. I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to ask, and I didn't know why I was reading it again. But I did, over and over, because that period, at the end of a stranger's sentence, in my life, put a pause, not a full stop, not yet, but definitely a crack. She said she was going to a lecture, but in the event listings, the lecture had already happened 2 days ago. I started keeping notes, not because I didn't trust her, but because I no longer knew what I could trust. It wasn't surveillance, not obsession. It was a defense against madness. If you've ever caught yourself confusing truth with hope, you'll understand. I got a notebook, small, gray, almost invisible. I hid it under a stack of old t-shirts, where she definitely wouldn't look. Each note, like a stitch, on a wound she didn't notice. Monday, classes. She said 6 to 8. Came back at 9:20. Her hair smelled like mint and something sweet. A new scent, not ours. Tuesday, canceled. She was tired. Went to bed early. But before sleep, she was texting for a long time. Under the blanket, screen facing down. Wednesday, came in at 10:35 p.m. Wet hair. No umbrella. But there was no rain. I checked the weather in 3 different apps. Not a drop. The ground was dry. My heart wasn't. Friday, she said, there's an open lecture today. No registration needed. I smiled. Then found the poster. That lecture happened on Tuesday. Same Katia. Same hall. Only everything was in the past. I didn't tell her. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew. She wouldn't tell me either. In the kitchen, she was flipping through a book. The same one she used to read to me from in the evenings. With a voice like pouring tea, slow, warm. Now in silence. Page after page. Her eyes moved as if they saw, but didn't read. I stood by the doorframe, watching. Inside, that familiar feeling. Like you're home, but not really there anymore. Want me to read a bit? She asked suddenly. I nodded. She opened the book in the middle. Her voice steady, even beautiful. But empty. As if it was someone else's story. Not ours. I don't remember where we left off, she said, closing the book. But I remembered. We stopped at the chapter where the heroine first realizes she's being betrayed, and says nothing, just looks. Exactly like I'm looking now. There was a dent on the book cover from her fingernail. Small but visible, like everything between us. Inside the book she had forgotten to read was a ticket. It contradicted everything she'd told me for the past 2 weeks. I was just looking for my glasses. Honestly, no suspicion. Just the usual morning chaos of someone with bad eyesight. They were always getting lost, under the couch in the bathroom between pages. So I checked up there, the shelf above her bed. The book was lying there, open, abandoned. For a while now, we both pretended she was still reading it. But the pages were dusty. When I picked it up, something fell out. Softly, almost soundlessly, like the truth that doesn't want to be found. A ticket. For a commuter train. Date, last Tuesday. Time, evening. Place, not what she said. Not those classes. Not that neighborhood. Not that story. And most importantly, it was the exact evening she'd said, I'm too tired, not going anywhere, and cried. For no reason. Although maybe there was a reason. Just not one for me. I held the ticket in my hand like it was someone else's. Even though it was mine. Not by right, no. By pain. I folded it carefully, slid it back, into the same place between the pages, and closed the book, tightly, as if nothing had happened. But something had. Everything had. The next morning I was pouring coffee. She walked in wearing a robe, a little sleepy, the way she always did. She glanced at me. I didn't know how to begin. But still I asked, how'd you get home from class last night? A pause. She blinked. Slightly longer than usual. Then, the bus, why? Just asking, I said, smiled, almost genuinely. She turned toward the stove, pretended not to notice, and I pretended to believe. Inside it was quiet, quiet like before an earthquake, when everything is still in place, but already unstable. Later, when she was leaving the house, I heard her pick up the book. That book, for the first time in a month. I noticed, because before she used to leave it the way we leave behind things we no longer associate with. And now she took it. So something in her had become needed again. Just not by me. I stayed alone in the kitchen. The coffee had gone cold. And I realized that book used to be ours. Now it wasn't. There wasn't just a ticket between the pages. There was her new story. Without me. She said, "It was just a kiss." But she said it too calmly. Like she had rehearsed it. She came back earlier than usual. No call. No message. Just appeared. Her bag dropped at the door like an anchor. And she came straight to me. As if she was afraid that if she gave me even a second of silence, I'd notice something. Or ask. But I already knew. Not the facts. The weight. You know how it is when you walk into a room and the air is different. That's how she came into the house. Her hands were trembling. Eyes like after crying. Or just before. But her voice sounded like it had been pre-recorded. "I need to be honest with you," she said. I didn't reply. Just watched her lips. As if something still lingered on them. Not a mark. Not a scent. An intonation. Not hers. "It was a kiss," she continued. "Just one. I don't know why. Just a moment. That's all." She fell silent. Then added, "It meant nothing." That exact phrase split everything in two. Because there was no panic in it. There was preparation. Like she'd stood in front of a mirror and repeated, "It meant nothing. It meant nothing. It meant." And I just stood there, listening, watching the room collapse even though nothing was moving. I got up, without a word, put on my jacket, slowly, without drama, like someone who doesn't slam doors, just can't breathe in the silence anymore. "Are you leaving?" she asked. I turned around, and my eyes landed on that cup, white, in the sink. The crack had grown longer, almost to the bottom. It had been placed there like a surrender. "Yes," I said, "because you couldn't stop yourself. Even if it was just a kiss." The door closed softly. The air outside was cold. And honest. I walked not thinking where, just away. And only after a few minutes did I notice something heavy in my pocket. A phone. Far too conveniently left with me. The screen lit up. A notification. "Now you know everything. The experiment has failed." "Mom." I stopped. Pavement. Streetlight. Footsteps of passers-by. Everything froze. Experiment? Something sank inside me. Not like a heart. Like trust. All the way to the bottom. It wasn't a kiss. It was a test. And it wasn't her who chose betrayal. She was chosen. The bus stop was empty. The bench cold, even through my coat. I sat there, holding her phone in my hands. The screen had gone dark. But the message still burned. "The experiment has failed." I stared at those words for a long time. They were like a mirror, but a warped one. They reflected me, but not the version of myself I knew. I opened the chat. The history was short, dry, like instructions. Let her decide on her own. Just observe. We'll give her a chance to stop. If she resists, he's right. I reread it, and I understood. I wasn't a person. I was a variable. Not a husband. Not a loved one. Not even betrayed. I was a hypothesis. When she left the house, I didn't go back. I waited. I wanted to see if she would come after me. I wanted it without knowing why. She found me, walked over slowly, like approaching a failure, wearing her coat, half-buttoned, hair loose, face not tear-streaked, but no longer hers. I held up the screen, showed her the message. What is this? A joke? A setup? It wasn't a justification. It was a definition. And you? I didn't finish. There was no point. I knew the ending. You didn't hold on. She sat down beside me, shoulders slumped, bag in her hand like a burden, not of belongings but of consequences. I didn't know it would go this far, she whispered. At first it was simple. And then? I asked, quietly. She looked at me, And in that look was everything. Shame, regret, tenderness. Too late. Then I got confused. He was attentive. He listened. He was interested in me. I felt interesting, like someone was truly interested in me for the first time. I stayed silent, staring ahead, at the dark road, at the streetlights. And then I asked, and me? Who was I? The control group? She didn't answer. And I knew, yes, he was supposed to be part of their experiment. But he fell in love. And she stayed with him. A month passed. Then 2. No calls. No, can we talk? No crying at the door. No movie scene rain-soaked reunions. Only silence. Plain gray like concrete. And the kettle, which I still, out of habit, boiled for 2 cups. Then poured half of it out. Because emptiness can be a ritual, too. I lived. Or pretended to. Worked. Ate. Slept. But in some of my movements, it wasn't me living. It was that version of myself who still didn't know. And then February. Cold. Harsh. The snow wasn't falling. It was suspended in the air. I was walking home past the cafe like always, and suddenly I saw them. Her. And him. He was holding her hand. Not theatrically. Just confidently. As if it was normal. She looked at him the way she once looked at me. Not with adoration. But with something more frightening, with trust. He said something. She laughed. And that laugh was real. Not the kind you hear through someone else's phone calls. The kind that stays in your head. I approached. He noticed me first. Let go of her hand. She stepped aside. Silently. As if we both knew this conversation wasn't for her. Not because it didn't concern her, but because she no longer belonged in it. We stood face to face. 2 people connected by someone else's experiment. But separated by someone's love. Was it real? I asked. Were you playing? He didn't look away. He nodded. At first, yes. They paid me. I was supposed to flirt, ask questions, be interesting. Test her. Tempt her. See how far she'd go. And? My voice barely shook. Barely. He inhaled. Deeply. And then? I stopped playing. I fell in love. A pause. Brief. But it held everything. And she stayed, he said. With me. Those words weren't a blow. They were fire. Quiet, internal. Not sharp. The kind that burns slowly. I thought the pain would come from betrayal. That the worst thing would be the cheating. But it wasn't. The worst thing was the choice. When a person has the chance to return it. And doesn't. I stood there. Silent. He didn't walk away. She didn't come closer. And I understood. This wasn't a crack. It was a collapse. And a point to which neither of us would ever return. Love can be forgiven. But a choice, no. Especially if it was made after. I returned to the apartment like a visitor to a museum of memories. The same walls. The same soft, diffused light from the window. The scent of books. The curtain slightly open, just the way she always left it. As if nothing had changed. But everything was wrong. I walked through the rooms and caught myself thinking. This isn't a home. It's a set. Someone forgot to dismantle it after the play. Where I played the lead role. Not even knowing the ending had been written long ago. In the kitchen, the same silence. Not cozy. Empty. The cup. White. With a crack. Still in its place. As if waiting. As if it knew. I picked it up. The crack I knew almost by heart had spread further. Thin as a spiderweb. But now right to the edge. As if it, too, was tired of holding on. Once I drank from it. Clung to it. Believed that if it remained, maybe we remained too. But now I understood. I drank from it like I drank from a lie. Every day. In small sips. Until the lie became habit. Until it turned into a poison that doesn't kill right away. Just makes you numb. I held my hand in the air. For a second. Maybe out of respect. Maybe out of weakness. And then I let go. No shouting. No drama. Just a period. The cup struck the sink. The sound not loud. But final. The shards scattered like unspoken phrases. Like maybe it's not too late, forgive me. Now it was too late. The book was on the shelf. The one that used to be ours. The one she used to read to me from. I opened it. The bookmark had moved far ahead. Deeper. She'd been reading it. With someone. Without me. She continued forward. Without pause. Without looking back. Without trying to stop. And only then, in that silence, in the apartment where even the air was no longer mine. Did I understand? She didn't leave. She moved on. To the next chapter. Without me. with a new voice, a new kettle, new mornings. And I remained here, in past tense. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't wait for explanations. I simply packed her things and reclaimed a space where no copies of her lingered. I woke up early. No alarm. No plan. Just opened my eyes and felt, it's done. It's time. The room was quiet. Not like before with tension in the silence, but calm. Like after a storm when you finally understand the sky won't fall. I got up, walked barefoot across the floor where she used to leave her slippers. Now they were gone, but the feeling remained. The closet was half full, as if she just stepped out to buy bread. Every item a memory. But it wasn't about her. It was about who I was beside her. I opened the closet door. Slowly. Coat. Sweater. Her scent. Old notebooks where she used to write, always scattered but beautiful. One by one, I packed everything into boxes. She was still smiling in her sleep. But not at me. I realized it when I found the cup. We each had our own. It never seemed important. But as it turned out, that was the whole point. Hers, white, delicate, almost translucent, with a small crack near the handle. Awkward, a bit crooked. She used to say, I got used to it. I chuckled at that. Funny. I got used to it too, to her. To everything. To the sound of her breathing at night. To the way she drank tea in the mornings, holding the cup in both hands. To the way she never finished it. And then, quietly, subtly, she started to change. First, the scent. A new shampoo. Strong, expensive, nothing like the one we used to buy together. Then the little things. Thin rings on her fingers that weren't there before. And a strange habit of wearing perfume to the grocery store. Not before a meeting, not before work. Just to the store. Who does that? I didn't want to think about it. Honestly. I tried to push the thoughts away. Sometimes I even looked through our old photos. The ones where she still looked at me like I was someone dear. Not like a roommate in the kitchen. That evening I came home early. Not on purpose, just tired. Everything at work was falling apart. I wanted to come home. I wanted warmth. Hope. Something familiar. She was washing her hands. Slowly, thoroughly. As if scrubbing off more than just skin. Soapy foam ran down her wrists. The water flowed silently as if it didn't want to interfere either. I noticed the cup in the sink. White. With a crack. But not hers, a different one. It was mine. Slightly charred on the rim, I burned it over a fire in the yard while making barbecue. She hated that one. Why was she drinking from mine? Suddenly, I realized her habits were slipping. Like the script was broken. The little things were switching places. Next to the sink, her phone. Left behind. Carelessly. Too carelessly. She never used to do that. The screen lit up, Katia, classes. I didn't read it. Didn't have time. Didn't need to. Because she wasn't looking at the screen like someone reading, but like someone remembering what was already there. I came closer. Quietly. Touched her shoulder. She flinched. Then smiled. Too quickly. Like an actress who forgot her line but remembered she was supposed to be happy at that moment. Why so quiet? I wanted to answer. I wanted to say I was tired. Not from work. From her. From this feeling of having a person next to me who was really just a ghost of what once was. But I didn't say anything. I walked to the cupboard in silence. Took out her old cup. That one, a white, with the crack. I looked at it, then at her. Standing by the window. Hands wet. Eyes lost in nothing. And I thought, I'm cracking too. Not loudly. Not all at once. Quietly. From the inside. I put the cup back. Gently, as if it were something fragile. Almost alive. And I noticed that the crack had grown. Almost to the bottom. Almost to the edge. She called it Katia. But the perfume she came back in wasn't remotely feminine. Katia. A name on the screen among other notifications. Ordinary. Convenient. Safe. Too convenient. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Classes, she said. Graphic design.